morning, everybody. Other people are just coming in. We were waiting to get quorum here. We required 12 members for quorum, and we are just there today. And so hopefully my other people are coming shortly. David Seeliger will be coming on, who's our president, and he will be emceeing today. Here he comes. There you are. You had me all worried there again.
Yeah, I didn't disappear.
This is always mystery, the technology. So
that's right. It just locked me
I
up.
will see if I can find a presentation here. Of course not. Why would it ever work the first time? Oh, it was there for a second. Well, forgive me, I'm going to have to do the entire screen thing, so we will see infinity here for a second. Success there, David?
No, we have
Can you see that?
no, it's just us on the screen.
Why?
I mean, I could start without the presentation just to get quorum.
You could. Oh, my screens are all. Why? It is not. It is flashing back and forth between screens on me. I don't know. You know, it doesn't matter. Okay. Doesn't matter how many times you do this. You see something now?
Well, I see another screen. Yes.
What do you see?
Yeah,
Yes.
I see a screen. Yes. And if you go to the question is, will it go to presentation? Yes, it's good. Welcome everyone. I'm David Seeliger, the president of the Alberta Low Impact Development Partnership. Welcome you all here to our 2026 annual general meeting. Just some housekeeping items. If we go to the next slide, later. If you're not familiar with REMO, you can see on the screen we have the agenda in the top left. Sorry, the general meeting. What's in the top? The agenda in the middle. The page. The event will be recorded and be posted publicly. We have a networking session at 11:45 to noon. That will be after the AGM. Now, if we need to vote, or if we are going to vote for resolutions such as the bylaws or accepting meeting notes, we enter a 1 to move a 2 for second, and then I will ask, does anyone oppose? And if someone was opposed, I would put in a 3, and silence would be in favour. If you want to react, you can put in the question and answer. You can like make a comment, or if you want to even nominate from the floor for a board position, that would be where you would put your note. So moving along to the next slide. I call the meeting to order, and I confirm that we have quorum is satisfied. So first, looking at the agenda we have here today, most of it is fairly sort of standard. We do have one area where we have a special resolution to amend the bylaws, and I'll explain that more once we get to that point, including some adjustments to what we sent out. So do we have someone to move to adopt the agenda as it stands? Moved by Bert. Do we have a seconder? So Sophie was seconded. Anyone opposed? If not, it's carried. Now we'll review the meeting notes from the 2025 AGM. So here were the attendees from that last AGM. Then we move to the actual notes themselves. And then we had elections with various people, 5 nominees, and I think they were all accepted through acclamation. Working group and treasurer's report, new business adjournments. Do we have anyone to any corrections to the meeting notes? If not, do we have someone move to adopt the 2025 meeting notes? Well, we have someone to move to adopt. It's Craig, seconded by Bert Van Doon. Anyone opposed? It's carried. Okay, next is my report for the year. Firstly, I'd like to thank all our 2025 partners, the city, various consultants, including some new partners that are shown in blue, as well as some non-profits and industry, suppliers, as well as some individual partners. So thank you all for your participation in 2025. Now looking at 2025 itself, we successfully delivered. Alid, I think there's a bit of back somehow. Okay, the 2025 there was quite successful in delivering a number of webinars. We've done a few underground projects and the conference in May in Edmonton. It was our first conference up there for quite a while. Also, we have started a bit of a collaborative project, which Lita will talk about a bit more later in her report, with the city of Calgary, looking at achieving a number of objectives related to low impact development, and what that looks like. and hopefully that sort of work can then sort of be disseminated across various municipalities. 2025 was quite a busy time for the board looking at governance. We had a number of facilitated sessions to look at, and we reflected our direction and how we've been supporting the organization in a overall perspective. And we identified quite a few policy gaps and also some outdated documents. So we were looking at going through and reorganizing them and sort of looking at ourselves and how we operate as a board. So in 2026, we continued that work, and we did a comprehensive review of the bylaws, which you'll see today. So they align more with our current operational practices. Some of the original bylaws there were even predated the formation of the board itself, and they say, and there was quite a number of legacy clauses that would be better as internal policies rather than in our bylaws. In tandem with that, we've been developing a robust framework for looking at director expectations and sort of guiding us in making sure that we cover our various duties as a board. In the future, we're looking at how we will serve our members, and including doing some fact finding, talking with various partners, and seeing and trying to identify some of the gaps and where the ALIDP can actually help sort of provide support for the various partners. So we'll be there sort of looking at how can we sort of collaborate and work towards work towards sort of common goals. I did just miss one point during my second talks, and that was we actually started to move to an annual conference rather than every sort of 18 months is what's typically been happening. And this allows for a more predictable revenue stream, and it also provides a regular stage where everyone can showcase what they've been doing, the great work they've been doing in Alberta. But this is a good thing, but it will require more technical review, in particular technical review of presentations and work on behalf of the ALIDP. So we will be encouraging people to sort of participate in the various conferences planning process that we currently do. And hopefully we are also investigating potentially aligning the AGM with the conference. That will take some other things that we need to check off first before that can happen. So back to the future. So as I talked about, we are sort of reaching out to various partners over the next year and a bit to sort of look at what these gaps are and to then summarize that. So we intend to come back to the AGM next year with this is what we've heard and this is where we think we can move as a partnership to support priorities. And it may be looking at, is it looking at finding other experiences and people that have dealt with these same issues before? Is it within Alberta or even outside of Alberta, bringing people in to sort of help support decision makers, and even maybe all of us are really on board to make things move forward, but there's a lot of other barriers that can be out there to prevent us from moving forward that do not understand how things work or aren't convinced. So I look forward to next year in presenting our findings. Next slide. Also, many thanks to the board for this year. this past year. They've really been, we've spent a lot of time and extra time above normal board duties to work through bylaws and other considerations. And I first advised that Amy Ling and Jeff Shurik from Edmonton have stepped down. But also, and I thank them for all their efforts they've done over the years they've been directors. But in particular, I like to, as John is retiring, and John, it's been a privilege to celebrate this remarkable 14 years you've been on the board, including 11 as secretary. So you came at the same time that I did. You've brought a wealth of expertise to our organisation. It's built upon your professional career that included serving as the City of Edmonton Principal of Horticulture and leading the Mutak Conservatory. I know you're well supported by Marge, who we got to know because she always accompanied you to many of the conferences in Edmonton and Calgary. And I recall fondly the time we spent at a restaurant, the Rouge, in Calgary, where you go walk in the garden before you have your meal to see the food that you might be eating, and you both were so interested in the garden. You know, you've been an active advocate of naturalization, community gardens, and naturescapes. You deeply understand how to weave nature into the built environment, long before even green infrastructure was a standard term. You know, you consistently remind us that successful stormwater management relies on living systems and that enrich our communities. Your contributions to our board have been defined by a rare combination of technical insight and deep practical wisdom. John, your guidance has left an indelible mark on the ALIDP, and I wish you and Marge joy, relaxation, and fulfillment for the years ahead. So thank you, John. Now, next slide. So as I said, we've been working for 18 years on various things and developing a lot of learnings, knowledge within the organisation and our partners who support the board closely. And so I think we're at the season where we are looking to develop more, share that harvest, disseminate teaching, leading, and multiplying our impact. So I look forward to the new season. Where are we going? And this was something that leaders flung on me right at the last minute, but it's we have these strategic pillars, and we're looking at how we can better sense how we can invest in resources to meet these pillars. So it depends much on us, all of us, of how we can achieve this. So I really encourage you all to participate in whatever way you can within the ALIDP, whether it's a special project, whether it's a working group, and particularly the conferences and training that will be delivered over the next year, and particularly the one coming up in November 2026. So thank you. And now I'll bring up Craig to deliver the Treasurer's report.
Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Having a little technical difficulties on my side, but I'll try to go through this. So yes, I'm Craig Kipke, the Treasurer of the LAP, and I'm here to present the financial statements for 2025. Our charter accountants, Arteris, are our independent auditors, and they've given us, in this statement here, it says they've given us a clean audit, which is important, obviously, for the organization. Lita, So I'm only seeing the small version of the screen, so I'm gonna have to, I think it's because I'm a host, Lita, so it's okay. I'll try and pull up my own. But in general, in this statement is statement of assets. I'm gonna have to go to my other screen just to have a look at that. The assets show that we have a current cash position of $104,000 this year, which is up from $50,000 the previous year. Our restricted cash, which is a note in the financial statements, which is our restricted cash as a board, we have 75,000 plus the grant money that we have in our bank account. So that's gone down because we've been spending money on our grants. Our liabilities are down $273,000 from $342 last year, and our total net assets are down to $472 from $518 from last year, which is again as we spend money from the grant money that we have in our bank account, our assets will go down. Lisa, do you want to go to the next slide? So this one's the revenue. I'm going to go to my other screen. So revenues in years that we have our revenue from events and courses obviously is substantial. And so again, comparative to last 2024, we have a significant amount of our revenue generated from the event, the conference that we had. Grants and projects are relatively the same as revenues. Our membership fees are up a bit, which is nice to see, about 10%. And again, some amortization on capital contributions, which is a note in note 8. In general, our operating expenses were up a bit. Again, when we have an event, there's more additional costs with the venue and all those sorts of things. So we're up when we have more expenses when we have an event. So up a bit comparative to 2024. And I'd say our administrative expenses are relatively flat, going up slightly just with inflationary salary and wages type things. So in the end, for this year, we have a profit or excess revenues of $23,000 comparative to a loss the previous year in 2024, which was budgeted of $47,000. So again, it just shows the impact of having our training and our conferences on a yearly basis and what that does from a revenue perspective for the organization. Again, so for the net assets, it shows us the increase of $23,000 in net assets from the previous year. So overall, I think we're in a financial healthy position with almost $200,000 in cash and restricted cash in the organization. So unless there's any questions, I'd like to propose a motion to adopt the 2025 financial statements for the ALIDP. Maybe I'll take any. Maybe I'll get someone to move that first, and then if there's any, before we vote, we can. Thanks, Josh. Second, thanks, Anton. Any questions? Just throw them in the chat, and then. Not seeing any, and if anyone opposed that motion. Seeing none, I will say it's approved. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Lita?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Alrighty. So now we're moving on to election of directors. So we have a 9-person board and 6 positions open. So there's 3 existing directors seeking re-election. So that's David Seeliger, Craig Kipke, and Josh Maxwell. And there are also 3 open spots, and we have 2 new nominees. So David Murray and Jennifer Magnus. And so 5 nominees in total. And now we have the opportunity to invite the nominees and to tell us a little bit about themselves and why they want to be on the board. Maybe we'll start with David.
Thanks, Anton. Yes, like I said before, my tenure matches John's, but I don't think I'm ready to retire just yet. And I'm confident of my abilities to provide strategic direction for the leadership and guidance of our organisation. So I've been sort of involved quite actively in a number of aspects, including the board, including working groups and special projects. And I guess my background is over 35 years of stormwater and LID experience, both here in Canada. So I provide a broad and strong foundation of that continual understanding and service. So I guess my background is I'm currently serving as Stormwater Director at MPE, a division of Englobe, which grants me a broader sort of aspect of LID across Alberta and Canada. Along with my role at the ALIDP, I've also sat on a number of technical CSA committees on flood standards for both greenfield and existing urban areas, as well as updating the bioretention standards, CSA standard, to incorporate rain gardens in just this last year ago. So I'm eager to continue to promote the partnership, its mission through education, research, and stakeholder engagement. And I see it being a collaborative teamwork and effort, and requires clear communication, are really essential to integrating all the facets of LID. So moving forward, I'm dedicated to ensuring the ALIDP continues to be a self-sustaining entity and provides a lasting value for its partners. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, David. We'll move on to Craig.
All right, can you hear me, Anton?
Yep.
Great. Again, I'm back. Hi, I'm Craig Kipke. I'm a vice president at Kerwood Lytle Associates, or KWL. I've been also been a director at KWL for the last 15 years. So I've quite a bit of director or governance experience within a private company perspective. I probably can tell from my gray hair, I've been doing stormwater or LID for a while, over probably 25 years. It's actually, I was thinking about it, the first project that I worked on LID wise was way back in 2003 in British Columbia. It was the Silver Ridge single family residential. And it was one of the largest single family residential LID installations in BC at the time. So I've been doing this for a while. Also been involved in Western Canada, both in Edmonton and Calgary with LID, installations, design, construction, planning, guidance documents for the city of Calgary, been involved with the CSA, guidance documents on bioretention, rain gardens. So a lot of technical experience. I've been on the board for the LID for 12 years now, actually, and been the treasurer for quite some time. So again, I'm very committed to this organization, and I think that I hope my fellow directors would say that during meetings and during our retreats and everything, that I provide some valuable contributions, whether it's with regards to policy, governance, or even just technical information. So I want to continue providing that guidance as we move forward. I see this organization as having a really important place in Alberta in terms of promoting, providing technical guidance, providing education opportunities for professionals. And I want to see that continue. I'm not going to retire just yet, just like John, and I'm a little bit younger than David, but I still think that before I retire, I want to see that LID is commonplace more than it is right now, and that we remove all these barriers that we continually see that in front of us. And so I really want to see that by the time I finish my career, that LID is commonplace. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Craig. And moving on to Josh.
Hi. So my name's Josh Maxwell. I'm currently a director on the board, standing for re-election. Been on the board for almost 6 years now. Not quite as much gray hair as David and Craig, but perhaps a bit more hair overall for the two of them. But I've been in the industry for about 18 years, and I first started doing LID about 14 years ago. So I've been engaged for quite a while. I sit up in Edmonton, and am fairly engaged in the local Edmonton LID market. I also practice LID across Western Canada, but yeah, I see the LIDP as being an important sort of overall guiding resource and leading resource for implementing, LID across Alberta, and even a reference point for for places beyond Alberta. I know I have on multiple occasions sent people to go look at our website that are located in BC and Ontario just to see what we're up to. I share many of Craig and David's visions. I want to see LID become simpler. I want them not to be pilot projects. I want them to be, I think the expression I've used is that it'd be excellent if one day it could be as simple as a catch basin to spec it. You have standard details you can pull forward. Obviously, there'll be stuff you'll have to customize and you have to look at and be careful of, but you want it to be uncontroversial. I know we're not there yet, but we'd like to. But that's where I'd like us to be. And yeah, thank you very much for hearing from me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. And we'll move on to the new nominees now, starting with David Murray. If you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
And do you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. I'm not sure if what I've got going on here, but
we can see you.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
you.
Yeah. So I'm David Murray. I work with the City of Edmonton, and so I do review LIDs quite a bit. I've been in the industry since '98, and have worked on all kinds of projects, from construction to in different roles, from construction to design to implementation, project management, and now with the city in terms of review. So it has given me a lot of opportunity in the last couple of years here to review a lot of LID, and I definitely I always love the aspect of adding water back to the earth and help with that recharge, and just to be part of the change. I think landscape architects have a lot of opportunity to bring forth more of a plant-based ecological perspective to these, and how we can continue to integrate that in working with our partners. I'll keep it short, but I have had experience with the Saskatchewan Association of Landscape Architects for a couple of years, and also with the Alberta Association of Landscape Architects for a couple of years. So I've done a little bit of board governance training and that kind of thing, and I hope to continue it and continue with supporting the vision of the LIPD.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. Looking forward to getting to know you better. And moving on to last but not least, Jennifer Magnus.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. I thought my introductions to start with, I was tied up in an engagement with our region this morning, so I'm doing this from my car, sadly, but I think that kind of is what I wanted to talk about today when I talk about what I'm, looking forward to for being considered for a board position. Is I'm a stormwater engineer. I've been for about 30 years now, and but that's just how it started. A lot of my career has been around working in the municipal space, whether that was doing land development, whether it was actually building water and wastewater treatment plants or municipal systems, and a very short stint working actually as a municipal leader. And all those pieces together have given me a really unique, I guess I would say, a career journey that I really want to be able to bring to water availability and water security in our province. And I have always loved what ALIDP has done in that space. And I think it was time for me to put my hand up to help contribute to that. And really finding that win-win-win. So when I hear everyone talk around, like, how do we get nature-based solutions and these types of solutions to be just the norm, we get there by identifying the value to everyone in the decision process. And I think that that's where I can really offer that implementation piece of it. How do we get to that collaborative decision making that comes from kind of having experience in all these different perspectives? Obviously, having Magna Engineering and that great company that was built a lot to hit this purpose around how do we do better. It's not just about engineering, or I love all the different types of backgrounds that I'm hearing from today. It's about all of us coming together and understanding that we've lost the discussion around the importance of water in long-term sustainability, even in the climate conversation. And I'm really excited to kind of bring that back to the table around where does water and using nature to address water problems really solve that long-term water security problem, but also climate resiliency. I always use climate in quieter voice these days, sadly, but that climate resiliency piece that we're all looking towards. So really hoping to bring multiple perspectives that I have built over a 30-year career kind of in this municipal water space, but not only in the stormwater space, but also in that kind of water reuse and how it links to the other types of uses. So we're really getting back to that kind of one water philosophy. So I've got experience helping with CSA and some of the larger water management policies across Canada. I've been pulled into different spaces at provincial and federal and different municipal spaces to talk around, okay, that's cool, but how do we do it within the regulation? So excited to share some of that experience and hear from the rest of you around how we can be adjusting, working within existing policy space, but also working to understand where some of that could change and adjust to just make a better overall picture. So really excited to be considered today and open to taking any questions that you might have too. Thanks, Anton.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Very exciting in terms of our new directors and our re-electing directors. But I guess one thing that I also need to mention is that our bylaws do permit nominees from the floor as part of the AGM. So at this point, I'd like to ask if there are any nominations from the floor. So calling once. Calling twice. Calling third and final time. So seeing none, I declare the nominees acclaimed. So very excited to have our new board and move forward and see what we can do together. And we can move on to the next part of the AGM.
Right, very exciting. Welcome, everyone. So the next part is a special resolution, which we're going to handle fairly simply here. So the board really dug into looking at what the bylaws are saying compared to what our practices are, how even the Societies Act has evolved, and trying to match all of that up. You received a copy of the changes. We have to provide only the changes. We can't provide the updated bylaws themselves. That's why you see that format of the table that goes into all the add and delete detail. And we'll go through the whereases and so on in a second, but there is one revision that we need to make to what's been proposed, and that was we're going to have right now the bylaws say we, as you see in the yellow highlight, responsibility of the secretary to maintain an up-to-date mailing list and partnership records. And we got very enthusiastic about updating that to being by email because that's generally how we do communicate. But in fact, for the purposes of the Societies Act, we do still need to actually have a mailing list. So we cannot actually change that. So the resolution will be to this amended version where we are not actually proposing to change 8.2.6. And other than that, the whereas clauses, it's like we haven't, they haven't been updated since 2020. And, you know, things have changed. We want to provide some more clarity around what membership means, who has voting rights, what are the roles and authority and procedures, and better aligning that with, as I said, the Societies Act and our current practices. So the resolution is as written here, now therefore be it resolved as a special resolution that the amendments attached to this special resolution as presented to you today are hereby approved and adopted for incorporation into the existing bylaws of the Society, subject to filing under the Societies Act, Alberta. So someone else will have to watch chat for me because I can't see it, but could someone please move the special resolution?
Hi, Alida, I moved it in the chat and I can monitor for you.
Thank you.
And Anton is second. Oh, it's Anton and Bert have second, but Anton was first.
Okay, any opposed? Carried. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, look, more of me. So I'm Lita Van Duyn. I'm the executive director, and I'll just thank Anton there. I don't know that he necessarily got introduced. He's been our vice president for some time now. Hasn't moved into the gray hair zone like a number of us here, but so we're planning to have him around for quite some time to come here. So if you've been with us for a while, you know that we have 4 strategic pillars, which is really kind of maybe more like a sandwich where we have the top-down things we can do around policy planning and regulation. We have the bottoms-up grassroots social support, social license, influencing politicians and sort of general opinion about LID. And then in the middle, the sort of how to sort of where is that win-win-win and supporting the professional community with knowledge and tools and understanding how things work and how we're going to pay for things and how we're going to keep track of the assets and all those sort of things around feasibility kind of being the sandwich altogether, these 4 aspects. And you need all these things to make something that you would call a sandwich, I'm going to argue. Which I mean, that's quite obvious, but in one way, but yeah, we need kind of all these elements to move things forward. They don't all come at the same pace, but these aspects kind of are kind of the big buckets of the kinds of things that we can actually do. We started out working just with professionals, and then because a lot of funding comes through on the ground and shovel, ribbon cutting kind of activities, we got into doing on the ground, and that kind of has characterized the last decade or so. And that led us into working with citizens more, and then we realized we really needed to kind of support municipalities who work with citizens and also equip still those professionals, but kind of a different group of professionals who do those public facing activities. So sort of in that vein, that actually captures quite a lot of these, quite a few aspects of the sandwich. Most recently, been working on the Rain Gardens for Resilience program, which goes back quite a ways. You'll see in our sort of summary slide on all of these on the ground things that we've been doing. Working on the small sites typology. At first we called it infill, but then we had a greenfield show homes on, I think they are 25-foot lots. So changed it to sort of small sites. It's sort of like, how low can we go? How deep can we make it? How small can the footprint be and still get the kind of flood and drought mitigation benefits that we want? So this actually just went in this week. This is a picture from Monday in Edmonton. So working in the rain up there. I'm ready for the rain to stop, but also went out in the rain and got some good pictures of where flow is really going and all that kind of stuff. So I think we've got, and then we're monitoring them for research, looking at soil moisture, looking at seepage a little bit. and asking lots of questions around that. And then there's a component that is to look at, well, you'll see. Wait for it. You'll see more. So this lot level LID implementation. So this is truly on private property. We started out with residential demonstrations back around 2017, or maybe in a little bit earlier. And you may have seen, this is our poster child of the quintessential rain garden. And this takes like from the full lot through one downspout, the whole home, and has graced the cover of a number of initiatives, and is going to continue to grace the cover of a number of communication products going forward around the rain gardens. Then we moved into looking at these community hubs. So at community halls, now the idea originally was that these would be places that residents could go and look at to get inspired for what to do at home. But in their own right, we realized there's a good correlation between building with a fairly large roof area and also available green space. Schools are more challenging because most green space is already allocated and dedicated and harder to fit them in. But at community halls, they have more year-round support for summer maintenance and so on. So we kind of said, hey, these are actually good things to do in themselves. So we're some of those, I know we're at this particular garden, there's going to be in August. I won't say the date, but late August in the evening, we're going to have a design and construction course, an introduction. So they are going to kind of be sort of these places where you can kind of go look, see, touch, feel. We moved on to the small lot. Demos and research has been a very challenging project to get good candidate sites for, but we're almost finished with that. And we know that Edmonton EPCOR has moved forward with a citizen program of incentives and rebates for different LID practices. And so that's exactly what we were hoping for, that around this time, when we kind of done this decade or so of like, how shall we build these things? What do they look like? How can we push the envelope on performance? We have sort of arrived at the point where the major municipalities are kind of moving into the thinking of the incentive programs and stuff. And that's exactly what we wanted to do, is to like hand it over to them to then carry it forward and then, you know, look at how the scaling can work. And there's lots of these different things that we need to have to support this. And so we've been doing the cost and performance monitoring. Material supply and quality is still the biggest issue in terms of scaling. I know, like, I think I bought like all the native plants that were available a couple of years ago or last year or something. Like, there were no more to get of the kinds of species that are useful to us. We want a calculator, which we can talk more about next year probably. How can this work with approvals? What setbacks do we need? What's the seepage of these things in reality? And so there's lots of work going on around that. And then the one that's near and dear to Josh's heart, he's thinking the public realm, but same true for private, the standardized designs and so on. That also, and as I mentioned, the incentives and rebates. And then we have the Clean Runoff Action Guide, which has the different practices. It's on the resilientlandscaping.ca website, which is sort of our vision for the public-facing educational thing, where we would host case studies and give information on plants and where to get them and materials and so on. And we've had 2 editions of that, probably pretty soon going to turn around another edition. Of course, we're looking for the intrinsic value of flood and drought mitigation that comes from these features. We know that in existing communities, they are a powerhouse for, if you can think of them as sort of like mini dry ponds, except they're not really meant to discharge only in very extreme events. Mostly they're about holding on to the water. And of course, they allow for biodiversity and all these co-benefits and so on, just by putting the water to work. Improve water quality, treatment performance, not on their own, but for If from here it goes into the street, it's not going to entrain or pick up as much stuff. It can't carry as much dissolved pollutant if there's less water. And if down stream or down slope facility like bioretention or an oil grid separator or any of those things are on the way and part of the treatment train, that if they don't have to push through as much water, theory is they're going to, the longevity of those facilities that are more geared to water quality are going to last longer and do more. And all adding up to the health of the receiving water body, maybe some links to water availability, and of course the other co-benefits. So that's a big feasibility chunk there. And as I mentioned, this resilientlandscaping.ca website, we actually do have a little bit of funding support now to move this and the calculator forward. And so over the next year, we're hoping to get that be somewhere where people can actually find more than the Clean Runoff Action Guide, which is there under resources, and we kind of just try and send people straight to that thing. So, inching towards greatness on this public-facing aspect of things. Thinking now more about what we've done for the professional community in terms of education. You may cast your mind back to the Prairie Urban Wetlands series, which seems like ages ago, started the year before and had 3 parts. Originally sort of looking at, okay, how do, say, rain gardens sort of mimic the very low class wetlands, and could we get compensation where wetlands are going to be lost anyhow to put functionality back into those communities through the use of rain gardens. And then we kind of had a little bit of a switch in the way it went with what we ended up talking about. We ended up in a really delightful place by March with more thinking around, we have more parks people in the conversation, and thinking very much about, it's a connected system from the things you do on the lot through whatever corridors, if there's green conveyance on the way to stormwater pond and whatever enhancements are cooked up there. It's a system, surprise, surprise. But I think the light bulb went on for people that, hey, these can be wildlife corridors. These are ways to enhance biodiversity. It's not just about tree planting or the other things that sort of have grasped the imagination right now around climate. But it is very much this idea of the connectivity of the parts. And that seemed to really be, people seem to go like, yeah, that is something we should be trying to do. And so that kind of moved that milestone along. And then we had our conference and training in May in Edmonton. It was the first time we've been up there in some time. And so that turned out very well, we think. And overall, added up to quite a bit of content going out into the world. Also, we had early in January this, if you will, a manifesto in response to environment, what are they now? EPA, putting out their engagement on water availability. So been reframed a little bit from just reuse and updates to the Water Act and regulation. All of that has gone through now, but we sort of tried to characterize all these different practices. They're not all considered LID, but it's like, what all can we do related to stormwater? Where do they fit in the landscape context? Are they related to lower density building runoff? And that's where it's like, you don't want rain gardens necessarily. You don't need rain gardens the way in new development, the way they are. They're more beneficial in older communities where you maybe don't have space for a dry pond, where there is an existing stormwater service like the conveyance, piping and so on. And there's like horses for courses, different things for different contexts. So we tried to sort of say what some of that stuff was and how it could relate to well, where is that water storage? How does it occur? Is it in the void space of the soil? Is it through ponding or chamber? Is it a permanent pool? And then where does that belong? Is it a retrofit thing, something you do mostly with the new development or redevelopment? So just trying to give people a sense of like, it's not everything everywhere. Things have their place, and there are many tools in the toolbox. So that's on our website. So we did that, and there was another round that was a more in-person talking when they were kind of road showing, doing a road show, and did connect well with EPA at that time. But then the follow-up, they've gone ahead and done the dated updates to the Water Act and regulations. So I have more to tell you about that in the working group report. And the other big thing that we have been kind of working with these small lot typologies is looking at, well, how do we interface with lot grading approvals? What setbacks do we really need? And just generally the approvals process for like how things are credited. So lots of different things there on the policy planning regulation side. We did also put out these, we're collaborating to put out additional guidance, worked with the International Institute for Sustainable Development, which is really in Canada, headquartered in Winnipeg. And so there's a lot of benefits and performance stuff. There's maybe some standardization of naming that we'd like to see people take over. And if people are just getting their feet wet but want to kind of know comparatively how things are, you know, what the performance and benefits of these different practices are, you can find some good base material in there. It's not going to change the world in implementation, but it's an awareness kind of a product. And Anton did the work on sort of the water quality side on it, like what kind of removal efficiencies can we expect for different contaminants. And so, you know, we're very careful about making sure what is referenced is actually the whatever it's named that we're talking about, a thing that has these certain features. And this kind of like, very often we're faced with something might be called a bioswale, but it's really a rain garden. Something might be called, you know, the names kind of hoop us up a lot in when we're talking about performance, and you can't just AI that. You've got to like really look into the papers and stuff. So Anton's been really good about doing that kind of work. And then MPE and myself were very deeply involved in the update to the CSA standard on bioretention systems, which now includes a rain garden component, the on-lot rain gardens that I was describing earlier. And so it's a very detailed document for, you know, for the professional user, really. So that should be coming out later this year. It's gone through public review already, was getting translated, and should be coming back for final approval here pretty soon. So a lot of Alberta involvement there, and a lot coming, a lot of the stuff around media design coming through the work that over the long term has come up through, eventually through the RAM and our research and monitoring working group, which Anton will be speaking to as the chair later. So we've just got really, I'd say, our strength in Alberta. We have really strong technical people operating at the national level, really influencing the direction that we're going in Canada. And it's, I think it's quite special. And I think you should be very, you know, happy and proud that that we're able to bring that type of voice to these sorts of initiatives. Back home, locally here, just to show you some happy people. Took around the City Calgary North Horticulture Club on a tour of the Highland Park Community Rain Garden. And there's quite a bit of research going on here that is pretty cutting edge. And so I know they were highly enthusiastic to see and understand more about this project. Made it onto TV once, last year. I don't necessarily love being out there that publicly, but there had been a UFC study, and Global TV had picked up the release of that on. It was really about how LID contributes to affordability. And so was able to give them a bunch of addresses of things locally in Calgary that have been implemented. And so that news clip does include the main virtue is it shows some of the projects that have happened. So also in 2025, just a bit of a rundown, sort of like with the research we've been looking, we've got like quite a lot of particular types of data. How do we pull that all together and talk about what we have learned? We have been working in Edmonton on the seepage question. Potential Roads has questions around how roadside LID facilities of various types might influence the roads, and sort of like, well, there's nothing to see here, but they want some more comfort around that. So we've been doing some chatting about that sort of stuff. Worked with some different projects providing vegetation support. And if you're doing projects where you want some vegetation support, because it isn't necessarily what we know about vegetation isn't necessarily rolling into guidance on paper immediately. So we know more than necessarily what's in the guidance. And if you want a little check on that, we can do that for you. And again, had the opportunity to participate in the landscape architecture 610 bioretention. Well, it's not a bioretention course, cold climate course, I think. But they do a final project on bioretention. So I've been involved with that for quite a few years, and that's nice to see the newer generation coming. And so, as many of you will know, we've got an upcoming conference in November here in town, and that program is just coming together. And I'm happy to be able to announce that on November 4th, all of the training that's going to be offered is half day. And we haven't got the fancy, catchy names yet, but one of them is going to be, talking really for the first time about not the first time, long ago, we talked a lot about it, but it kind of has gone away for a while, but it's coming around the block now, and it should be, we'll have to wait for the details, but it's a water quality oriented discussion, and thinking there a lot about source water protection. And I would venture to say, okay, we've got sediment removal requirements, but what if there's more than that coming? And the other one is more on this thing of like, how do you actually get a thing that it maybe shows up in planning? How do you see that not die on the table on the road to implementation? So some first discussions on that type of topic. And really pleased to have the erosion and sediment control introductory course coming back. And that's going to be offered both in morning and afternoon. And therefore we said, hey, let's get the erosion and sediment control exhibitor crowd out, because they're a slightly different batch of people, and have been very supportive in the past. But when the ESC training went away, they kind of mostly did too. Not everyone, but there are some that are just involved in the ESC products and practices. So looking to offer some tables up on the training day for people of that. And I mean, open to anybody, but the ESC people will be among us. And then on the 5th and 6th, 2 full days now. We had 2 full days in Edmonton for the first time, and we will do the same thing here in Calgary. And that program should be announced very soon. And there will be our exhibitors reception and a poster session, and some networking and other fun things, we hope. And then just looking at forward on a granular level with our 4 parts of this sandwich. Something that's coming up is we've floated the idea of a code of practice for reuse. And we are working on, through the Stormer group, technical design guidance, which is kind of interpretation of the public health guidelines for making water safety plans. Knowledge and tools, we got a whole stable of things going there. That's usually mostly what we're doing, but there is a lot of scoping this year to figure out who should we be engaging with to get the various messages out. What can we do to share performance findings that isn't just for sort of the academic crowd or the people who really want to dig into the details? For practitioners, is just tell me the upshot. What is it going to change in the way I design a thing or how I have to think about something? So quite a few things happening there already. And then in feasibility, this is mostly through the on-the-ground projects that are happening in Edmonton, looking at refining the typologies there. Just a little hint that it's like we're seeing that shade is actually quite a big factor, we think, in how these things actually perform, looking at the rain garden side of things, and looking at wrapping them up to get them onto even smaller contexts, combining with underground storage. And if that's not tied to the stormwater system directly, what does that look like? How can that be? Building some comfort around that. And then on the grassroots side, some more, there's always some few things going on the citizen side, and it helps just to keep, what are people saying? Some people are saying that sort of thing. Looking a little bit further ahead, the Watershed Resiliency and Restoration Program by EPA was where most of the funding has come to do all these on-the-ground projects that have been associated to research, and that is winding up by the end of 2027 because the whole program is winding up, and we don't know what that might be replaced by. Everything that they have replaced it with so far has had a rural focus. There hasn't been anything on the urban side. And as we've talked about, we're trying to figure out how to make this maneuver into more, okay, we've done a lot of this quiet work over the last decade. How do we kind of turn that around into getting more of that story out as we become more confident about what those messages are? The working groups, of course, are the bread and butter of any sort of association such of ours. Wouldn't normally be so much project work. And so as the project work kind of maybe diminishes, we really would like to see, I believe, the working groups be strengthened and see more, just even an ad hoc group that comes together to talk through one little thing that's bugging you. If you have your bee in your bonnet about something, we absolutely can facilitate gathering some folks around that to discuss. It's like, hey, this is too stringent. This, we need something different over here. How can we make progress maybe on this standard detail for something and agree on things? So anything where we can bring people together around common themes of interest, we're here for that. This move to an annual conference will impact a lot of things about the organization. Some of the question around doing that is both the capacity of volunteers who run the event and the capacity of the market. Do we have enough new learnings to have an annual conference? So that's what we have to kind of test out there. And along with this dissemination, will we be able to do new training? So that's kind of the immediate future. And a little bit longer term, it is this dissemination stream, a little bit more around decision support tools, and sort of like, it's not going to come right away, but this certification for designers and contractors, particularly around the on-lot stuff, which is sort of it's new frontier for most people. And again, just this idea of increasing our sphere of influence. We have had success nationally. We want to, maybe raise our voices a little bit more as our confidence and knowledge base grows. And then, I thought I had one more. Oh, that's the one I gave to David. It's like this idea of, which direction are we going? Figuring out. So we're doing all this stuff. What does it add up to? And a little more scrutiny around milestones along the way to like, how can we tell where we're making progress? What would progress look like? When would we know we had invested in something enough that we could maybe shift our focus? Not that we're done with something, but just sort of like, where is the weight of effort required, and where's the return on that? And where are the municipalities going? We don't control our own destiny to a lot of extent. We are subject to the, where are the municipalities going? What changes with regulation provincially, federally? How can we take what is being done in the major municipalities and make that something that can be given to other smaller jurisdictions who maybe don't have capacity across province? And really, for our consulting community, it's sort of, what do you need to have at the table to help persuade a client? What kind of evidence do you need and are looking for? We don't maybe have a good handle on what you need, but we only know if you tell us. So some work to sort of see, to maybe connect a little bit more to find out, where are the pain points for you? And I'd be happy if you would put in the chat something like, this is one thing that would really help me in my work personally. If you would be willing to share that in the chat, we'd love to hear that. So I will, I've filled up all the extra time we've had, I think, pretty much. I will turn this over to Anton now, the chair of our Research and Monitoring Working Group, to talk about the amazing work that's going on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Lita. I should have introduced myself, I guess, earlier, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm Anton Skorobogatov. I'm the Green Infrastructure Specialist at Kerwood Lidl. I'm the Vice President, and I chair the Research and Monitoring Working Group. I think we can go to the next slide. So just to give you a sense for what this is really all about, the terms of reference is to connect industry, academia, municipalities. Identifying industry relevant research needs is certainly one. Coordinating data sharing and analysis and trying to reduce the duplication of efforts. And ultimately, it's to build collaboration, because that's really important. And then when we do have findings, it's trying to contextualize them, because sometimes it's not often easy to translate the data that we have, not just in LIDs, but sometimes related systems. And how do we actually take that information and translate them into policy guidance and ultimately something that drives implementation? And I guess last but not least is, as Lita mentioned, there's a number of ALIDP projects. And when it makes sense, we provide oversight or peer review and the technical expertise of the participants in order to inform LIDP projects or potentially other projects that get brought to our attention. So I wanted to briefly touch on the goals as they were outlined at the last AGM, and later you can just kind of blast through them. So it's translate academic and LIDP generated data into design and performance recommendations. Certainly still working on that, because that's not something that I think we can fully accomplish in a year. To continue expanding our knowledge and knowledge sharing and exchange across the province, and then identifying opportunities for some more standard monitoring approaches. And I'll talk a little bit about where we're at with that, and then engaging leading academic groups in targeted sessions or webinars. And sometimes it's opportunities not only for kind of local academic groups, but also can we bring potentially others into these discussions. So one of the big things to date has been kind of creating opportunities for knowledge sharing and capacity building. So we had numerous student and practitioner presentations on various topics. I just wanted to give a list of things that we touched on, and it creates an opportunity to share the findings, but also then generate some discussion. And so these are just some of the things we talked about, and includes stormwater sediment sources. So thinking a bit more larger picture, what do we know about kind of sediment coming off the catchments, which could end up in our LIDs? permeable pavement performance was something we touched on, and kind of some of the long-term implications and things like infiltration and clogging, and what happens, and kind of what some of the restorative measures. Mature bioretention systems, I think I have to use the word mature with some level of caution, but we certainly are coming to a point where we do have systems that are 10 years or even older potentially in Alberta that we have available to us locally, and we can learn from them, learn from their performance and how they inform what happens moving forward. Modeling is certainly a big aspect of some of the discussions. What's the right approach? What's the right software? What's the right tool? And again, trying to also understand that sometimes modeling is not done the same way depending on the jurisdiction, and kind of some of the designs and approvals and requirements. So then it's that discussion of making informed decisions based on what we do know. And we touch on various municipal monitoring initiatives as there are many happening. And it's just making sure that, I think I said earlier, trying to provide that information sharing opportunity and reduce duplication of efforts if we do learn something useful in one part of the province and then get that knowledge somewhere else. And I think I have it here as the outcome. I mean, it's the outcome and the process. It's creating opportunities for research and practitioners to learn from one another and identify collaboration opportunities and ultimately move LID forward. So one of the major themes that has developed, particularly in the past year, it's how do we actually go from research and monitoring to decisions? Because we do have some data now, and we will likely generate more data. But then how do we get from data to understanding? What can we actually understand from that data set? And then having confidence in that understanding and then those conclusions. And then ultimately taking it to implementation, because again, there is enough sort of green infrastructure systems that have been installed. We need to make sure we understand how those are performing, and when more are going to get implemented, what kind of decisions can research and monitoring inform? So some of the discussion areas, thinking about good enough evidence, good enough data as well. How do we communicate uncertainty, and what is sort of sufficient amount of data so that we don't sort of analyze something to an nth degree when maybe we already have sufficient evidence to make a decision. And then ultimately all of this is to support better design and policy decisions. Can move to the next slide. I guess one of the key takeaways, and this is more of a overarching statement, is that collaboration, I believe, remains research and monitoring working group greatest strength, because it's about those interactions and sharing of information and knowledge that can take place. Long-term monitoring data sets are becoming increasingly valuable. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're available, but I think it's trying to understand, and this touches on mature systems as well. What do we know? Do we have long-term data sets, or at least can we kind of get some insights from the systems that have been around for a number of years, and then translate those findings into where we want to go from here? Research should be connected to implementation operations. That I think is a no-brainer, but I think RAM can be a vehicle to support that. And I think Lita touched on it already. We have a lot of expertise in Alberta. We have a lot of good opportunities. There's a lot of really, really great initiatives that I think put us in a great position to lead discussions on LID performance in cold climates. So certainly research and monitoring is one aspect of that, but just an organization overall, I think we have a great opportunity here. And one thing I want to highlight is, this was highlighted at the previous AGM, and this is something that I see as an ongoing priority for RAM. It's making sure that we create opportunities for shared learning through not only RAM meetings, but conferences, webinars, because ultimately it's about having the data, having the information, challenging some of the assumptions about local differences, because we still likely have more similarities than we do differences when it comes to looking across the province. And I think two major municipalities, so Calgary and Edmonton, with the expertise and the initiative that's happening in both major municipalities, they do have the best resources to lead the way for the rest of the province, at least from the municipal standpoint. And this is one of those things that this is not to say that they have unlimited resources, but they probably have more than some of the smaller municipalities. And then we can get some of those lessons learned through research and monitoring, supporting municipal initiatives, and then ideally translating that, getting the information out there, and promoting overall LID implementation. And with respect to where we go from here, I think one of the big things that I'd like to see is that we create opportunities for information sharing. So RAM meetings are considered confidential unless it is indicated otherwise, which does help to have open discussions. But then creating some short bits of information that can actually be shared widely so that we do create some awareness and just put the information out there. Social media certainly is one of the potential modes of communication. LinkedIn is one. If you have other ideas, please do reach out and let me know. Monitoring interpretation and having confidence in results is something that we'll spend some time on making sure we have a framework and a way to approach it. And then weight of evidence is something that we've recently tapped into. It's an approach that hasn't necessarily been developed for LID or green infrastructure specifically, but it is about that notion of how do we go from data to decision making. So we're exploring that. Certainly more and continued academic and municipal and industry, I should say, partnerships, and knowledge sharing, and then synthesis products. So something that we can actually, again, ideally, it doesn't just end in discussion, but we have something that can be put out into the world. And I believe that's my last slide. And with that, I just wanted to say that if you have any ideas or would like to contribute to the working group, so reach out. There's my email there. Reach out to, you can also reach out to our executive director, Lita Van Duyn, or our president. I'd be happy to have a conversation and hear your ideas, and hopefully we can make it a little bit easier to implement LID, whatever it is we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. I'll flip it over now to our other working group, the Stormwater Reuse Working Group. So I'm chairing it. Dr. Norm Newman is a technical resource and leads a lot of the work around the water safety plan aspects and the health guidelines, public health guidelines for reuse. And I'm doing more on the policy side and in producing the documents that we're working on our interpretation of the health guidelines. So it started out to create a community practice around stormwater use and reuse. So sort of a low risk, low, I wonder about why is it like this? We could do that, save space to have those conversations so that it accelerates implementation of new practices. It's a model for any type of new practice, and so it's working well for this group. And so, as I mentioned, there's the water safety plan development. So the public health guidelines have that. Oh, you need the water safety plan. So like, well, how do we unpackage that? So it's going. We're working on going beyond the guidelines into interpretive documentation of that. And I'm more focused on working with EPA on the, was in the Water Act related topics. The Water Act has been updated. And so it's other things that cascade from that. And then we have definitely, as you'll see, it's kind of potentially moving beyond stormwater focus to broader one water integrated questions, because a lot of the people on the policy side, at least, is the same person who is responsible for, say, water withdrawals and return flows, or it's sort of like the same group of people. And so if you're having one conversation, you can have all of those conversations. And maybe we're not the experts to go down into the technical details in some of these other areas, but it is those things can certainly come back to the bigger picture. So we said, if not us, then who? And why not us? You know, why should it be drinking water or wastewater that carries the one water ball? We can just as well do that as stormwater. So that's sort of, we're grasping onto that idea. So this gnarly chart here, it's really the black boxes with the red outlines to show you within the health guidelines are these different processes for the things that you have to do. Tell me about your project. How is it being designed? How is it going to be installed and commissioned and operated? And saying, okay, there's all these steps you go through for these things. So then these boxes, the black boxes, are what we've been working on to have the discussions around, okay, well, how do you characterize source water and end use? And in fact, that is what has been going on for about the last year on this topic. And we are probably over the summer and into the fall, certainly before the end of the year, going to release that first guidance document. So it's sort of like tips and tricks and which parameters and how do you do that and what constitutes a wet weather event, and I'm trying to put a pin in a lot of vagaries that come out of it. And then we've just been sort of talking through the difference between validation and verification and what that means, and looking at what we're going to tackle next. But a lot of the stuff that seems to be more about the interpretation will be around what are the steps you need to go through to validate, to verify. And it's like, yeah, just verify that the log reduction targets are achieved. And sort of, well, how do you do that? So it's unpackaging these finer details of things. And then finally, the operations, and ultimately, it's sort of like, well, we almost call this number 5. It's the roles and responsibilities of it all. So, be a longer term thing there. We need some funding to be able to work through more of these things in terms of producing the documentation. We can have conversations, but then it's like, okay, what are we putting out into the world documentation wise? Needs that can't all happen for free. The first one's sort of been a freebie, but yeah, we have to have some funding to keep on with that. And so just thinking about some of these things around reuse, it's like the delta water calculation, the difference between pre and post evapotranspiration being delta water. What we don't have consensus on how that is, how should we model it? What are the data sets that are used in support of it? What would be the rules around parameter selection? How would it be documented? What would the explicit statement of the performance standard be? What we actually say it has to achieve? Now, this could be on a jurisdiction or catchment basis. And then declaration of compliance. So that's what a code of practice is, different from just when you put your engineering stamp on something. That's you and you're standing behind that. But if you have stamped something in compliance with something that would live in a code of practice, then you have an extra backstop there. So that's good for a municipality. That's good for a practitioner. But as people have pointed out, well, you better be sure that what you're telling people to do is the right thing. So therein lies the rub. And the other thing that we think belongs in there, we've been living for quite some time, like I think about 15 years, on the interim accepted practice for irrigation, non-potable use irrigation from stormwater ponds. And it's like, how long should an interim letter really be the thing that we're standing on? We've seen the fragility of that potentially able to be clawed back. And so we'd like to see that codified. We think these two things go together. So we are floating that with the province. We have a meeting. They have agreed to a meeting in the fall. And that is one of the main things that we want to talk to them about, because now that the Water Act is buttoned up and the regulation, we're saying these absolute exemptions do not work for stormwater. We need to have this way to provide the calculation and to know what the game rules are. We need to get that codified. So that's where we are with that. And then we're also making some noise around, now that return flows have been defined in the Water Act, which they weren't previously, okay, is like, let's say to EPA, you need to know some things about, to be the overseer of the system. You need to know what is happening at the point of diversion, and you need to know what's being returned. But right now, every single use that comes, historically, it's been from a wastewater treatment facility. Every single thing that would be done with that effluent in a reuse sense has to be individually approved at this point. And it's just a huge bureaucratic thing where the municipalities are kind of saying, like, we shouldn't have to do that for every little thing, because it's hindering our ability to, the bureaucracy is hindering our ability to put water out there. And so really EPA doesn't need to know how many times around the block or which exact source of water it is, or whatever. What you need to know is the return flow, that's still okay, which can be done through monitoring. And the province is always still going to hold on to the Quality Act. APIA is always going to still, if it's a certain kind of use and discharge, they're going to hold on to the reins on that. So this is kind of what our thinking is and what we're going to be pushing for. So that's kind of what's going on. If you have ideas or want to contribute, again, let's start a conversation. Now that Jennifer is with us, I'm sure she's going to have a lot to say on some of these things, and welcome looking maybe some more onto the economic aspects of some of these things and what she's hearing in the world that she's living in. So that's the power of the group, is to bring those different viewpoints and streams of information together, and welcome your input on that.
Thank you, Leah.
Bonus slide. I got a little bonus slide for you.
Oh.
So when we were looking at this code of practice question, it's like, well, what do we actually have at the provincial level for guidance? So we have various acts and regulations. The only code of practice we have right now is for outfalls. In terms of guidelines, we have not had an update since 1999. We think they desperately need to be updated, but we need other people to come alongside to agree with that. We need municipalities to say so. We do have the public health guidelines, and back in the day, the rainwater harvesting for single-family residential was put out by the province. But of course, it all depends how the local jurisdiction brings over this information into their own realm as to what your local requirements actually are. But this is really kind of what we got. There's also along with the policy and procedures manual, which is really could use some work, and maybe is where the effort should go. I mean, you tell us, what do you need? This is what we have to work with. I'm not sure what there are for technical manuals. We don't have a lot of awareness at the provincial level that there is anything. There's a fact sheet floating around there in 2018, and this is what we think the provincial landscape is like, and would really like to see it strengthened. So. David, back to you.
Nice. Oops, we're right on time. Amazing.
Amazing.
Thanks, Leader, and Anton, for your reports. So the next item is there any new business? If not, if there's no new business, I will need, so I've just lost my piece of paper. I will need someone move to adjourn the meeting. Bert does that. So thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a great summer, and we look forward to connecting in the fall, and then like to see you all at the conference in Calgary. So thanks, everyone. And I guess we'll just, we'll go back. There's some networking if you like. We'll go back to the room, the desks and chairs, so you can hang around or continue with your day.
I wanted to see if there were any, to just see in the questions and answers here.
Okay.
Don't include me in your quorum. Yes, we've been watching you. We know. So just checking the chat here. Okay, everybody's ready to go. We'll go back to the networking.